Welcome back to Games Now. My name is Anna-Kaisa Kultima. I'm here with my lovely co-host Solly Park.
Hello, everyone.
And it's February?
Yes, still.
It's February.
One more day to go.
Yeah, it's February 22.
28th.
2022.
Yeah,
28th of the day. All right.
What are we doing here?
I don't know. So, thanks for joining back with us and enjoying the content that we create for Games Now. We're open lecture series. We are airing straight from Otaniemi campus in Espoo, Finland. And today we have another amazing topic. If you want to make sure that you don't miss any of our minutes of the lovely insights of the industry professionals and researchers around the globe, just make sure that you follow all of our social media channels. They're pictured. I guess our stamp is a bit behind of the Solip's view, but that's completely fine. You're gonna find this post-it note also on the other screens that we have.
Gamesnowalto.fi.
So yeah, there's a lot of content we are already covered this season, and we're gonna have a couple of more interesting lectures coming up. The world is super crazy, but we're so ready to cover the fun stuff of Fall Guys, composing of the music of Fall Guys. So, without further ado, or should we chat more because we already used a lot of time for chatting?
Yes, let's have our
guest
on.
here. So,
hello, everyone.
Hey.
Hello!
So we have the wonderful duo of Jukio and Daniel here today discussing about the game music. And game music is such a kind of undervalued sometimes in game productions, and we just need to know much more about it so that we also get to appreciate the art.
Hey.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Thank you. We're good.
Thank you very much.
It's very unfinished of
Yeah,
us.
it's so weird. We don't do that in Finland.
Yeah, but it's like
Hello.
so welcome to have you here, and we're happy that we are able to use your insight to learn more about game music.
Thank you for the
Thanks.
invitation.
Yeah, we're glad to be here.
Yeah. So if you have any questions in the audience, if you want to ask anything from Jukio and Daniel, you can put them in the chat, and we'll sort it out in the question and answer part. But I think that we're gonna leave the introductions so that all the terms, all the titles, all the program and software names gets corrected by you for first hand. But yeah, we're gonna talk about Fall Guys, but also maybe other stuff from your layers of insight.
Anything.
Okay,
That's great.
so welcome. The stage is yours, Jukio and Daniel.
Thank you. Should we go to the slides or?
Yeah, perhaps we can have it as a backbone or sorts for for this presentation.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about the music of Fall Guys, this apparently a hit game. I'm Jukio Kallio, and
yes, I'm Daniel Hagström. Very nice to meet you all there.
almost meeting.
Kind of.
But we work as a duo on this project, and it's been a great time. So this is what we are gonna go through. We're gonna talk a little bit about ourselves, then talk about the musical identity of Fall Guys, how we ended up there, and also how we work together, and a little bit on my side of composing, and then Daniel's side of production, and then we're gonna get into the kind of the meat of
the exciting
stuff of
interesting.
So session example, we're gonna open one of the first project files that we made for Fall Guys, and then just wing it. Talk about it, and
we're good at winging it. The soundtrack is
But so and then hopefully we'll have a lot of time for questions. Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
So I am Jukio Kallio. I'm a composer for video games mostly, but also interactive media and some short movies and stuff. I've been doing this professionally for at least 10 years now, so I guess I'm a professional. And of course you can find more about me on yukiokallio.com. I actually just updated my website, so there's a very cool gray background there now. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about project I've done. This is Minit. It's one of the bigger projects. It's been shown around the world in museums, and it got a lot of nominations for awards, but never won award. So that's interesting. And then Nuclear Throne is kind of my personal kind of epic project. It was a very, very big soundtrack and very fun to work on. It's this kind of rock and ambient and Western music combined. Listen to that soundtrack. And then, of course, Fall Guys. This was a project that kind of got me from these indie game projects into more kind of mainstream, like Formula drivers and basketball players, and everybody talked about this when it came out. So that kind of was, in that way, that was the big project. And then there was Luftrausers, which was one of the first big hits for me, and it had this layered music, combined music thing. I want to talk about that in some other talk. And then there's Pixel Junk Monsters 2, and I did a remix for Celeste. And then there's a lot of other stuff too, and I've been working a lot with Devolver, Nexon, and that kind of stuff. Also, one anime is there. That's cool.
That's always cool.
Yeah. Okay. So that's me.
And this is apparently me. Hi everybody, Daniel here. I'm actually not from that much from the video game industry per se, as from the music industry. I'm a mastering engineer at Finvox Studios here in Helsinki. Just perhaps a quick rundown what mastering actually is. It's just basically the last creative and technical step in the production of a record or some other audio release product, where we fine-tune the sound, the dynamics, the loudness, make sure everything translates well to any different playback systems you might use the end product on, take care of all the metadata and so on. So what comes out from a mastering studio is the actual final production master that goes out for delivery, be it for say a CD pressing plant or for iTunes, Spotify, or just like in this case actually implemented in a video game. That also it has advantages to master things that go into video game, and we come back to that later. So so in addition or before full-time mastering engineer, I also have a background as a music producer, also done a lot of recording and mixing, and both in released music and film and TV, and some video games stuff as well, obviously. Let's go. Oh yeah, so just if you're interested, there's my little website, and I'm a bit more lazier updating it, but there's good stuff there. And obviously interesting is also the website of our studio, Finvox, which is the kind of oldest commercial recording studio in Finland. It's pretty magical place. So just for reference, here's just for the mastering part. These are just some top domestic artists I've had privilege to work with, just to give you a ballpark of what kind of thing goes on in my daily work life.
Do you work alone, or do you work with other engineers in the company?
I work alone. Perhaps the artist might be present, or their producer might be present, or the mixing engineer might be present. I work with people from record labels, the A&R people, whoever is the kind of the client. Yes.
Yeah.
So
like me.
And yes, I master a lot of stuff for Jukio as well. His solo stuff.
Yeah, I have no understanding how it works whatsoever, so I just wanted to also ask that for our audience.
Yes, yeah. So I come in. I'm the last step on the production. First, the song is written, then it's recorded, produced, mixed, and then it comes to my table, and I kind of finish the thing.
You're the final boss in the battle.
Well, yeah,
Final green lighter.
kind of like.
I mean, I tried to do
Okay,
the game.
yeah. We're getting
game
out of the
analogy there.
game. Yeah, I won't stay here long. We can get to the games soon. So basically, yes, just and I also said that I had a background in film and TV. These are some of the titles and.
Also Returnal.
Also Returnal.
Oh yes, yeah. I ended up in actually helping with the sound work in Returnal with Foley and things like that.
We
So
had a lecture
it's a nice.
about Returnal a few months ago. So.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah, I never actually played it. Because I tried to get a PlayStation 5, but I didn't. Yeah, well, that's not going. So
yeah,
yes.
PlayStation 5. Yeah.
So
yeah.
okay.
Understandable.
Yes. So the movie part is mostly with having to do with music recording or producing or even composing in some cases. But yeah, also just a quick rundown on some of my top clients and top companies and record labels I regularly work with. So just to reference and what kind of thing goes on here. So maybe I think that's the short version of
That's us.
of us.
That's it.
Yeah,
We're done.
welcome.
Thank you very much.
Strong portfolio.
All right.
Yes.
So should we get to the actual
Yes, let's talk about the
thing that
music.
why we're here?
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, Fall Guys and the music. We're gonna talk about how did we find or end up with the musical identity of Fall Guys, and I want to underline the musical identity word because that's we're not just making random songs that kind of fit into the game, but we are actually designing this whole world of music and sound. And by sound, I don't mean sound design of the game, not the steps and stuff, but like the sound of the music. And so there were a few kind of big points on top of our kind of intuition and how we compose ourselves, but there were a few these kind of main points that kind of defined how we approach the music of Fall Guys. I hope you all have listened to it a little bit, so you know how to kind of apply these all things that we talk about. So first thing was that when we started the project, we didn't get to play the game. It was kind of not early, but it was kind of not really playable for us yet. So we got a few images of the game and then a video of the gameplay, and that's where the kind of one of the first things that I thought as a composer was the rhythm of the music. Like, it should be slow, should it be fast or what? And that's where the rhythm came from the video. And we saw these little Fall Guys walking around, running around and jumping, and from the kind of the walking animation and the rhythm of the gameplay, that's where I kind of wanted to feel the rhythm of the game and then make the music into that rhythm. And that's kind of one of the building blocks for how we ended up with this kind of music for the game. It's not that all the tracks are same tempo or anything, but it's kind of the feel, the rhythm of the game.
Can I ask about the timeline, or are you going to you're gonna explain it later also? But just the kind of when did the not really good. It's a good ask. So Fall Guys was out like during the pandemic. It was like, when was it out?
It was the fall of 2020.
2020, the notorious 2020.
Late summer.
Late summer, yeah, around.
I don't remember the date though.
So
So how early did you get the video and all that stuff?
We started the talk around a year before, not
right.
even a year before, but then we started with the work around February or March.
Yeah, because the pandemic had just
kind of started.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the kind of the timeline.
So
then
couple
we had
of months before the release.
It was maybe 4 or 5
4 or
months.
5, yeah, okay.
Yes,
for me, couple might be 4.
It's been so long.
Yeah, it's been 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So we played the game, and I guess like Solib is drawing some of the illustration now, and the live illustration is also like showing the tiny creatures. Can you show us the one that? Oh, there. Yeah. these are called Fall
So
Guys.
Yeah,
Sort of. I tried.
I know these guys.
Well, then
So,
some of them
yeah,
have
that's
awesome.
That's
figures.
very interesting. So the timeline is
Yeah,
cool.
and in the end, I think we kind of intensively worked around 3 months, maybe, and then
Yeah,
over
yeah,
the summer we
I
kind of like it was in the game was in the final production, so
Yeah.
we didn't really see a lot of it or anything
Right.
until the release. And actually, I
yeah,
think
I didn't even play the.
Yeah.
I got the first chance to actually play the game like 2 weeks after it was released.
yeah,
Oh.
I got to play one demo version of
Yeah.
it.
Right.
And that was just because I didn't have a PC computer, a Windows computer. So
Right, right. So there was only
I-
PC built, and then that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But that's super interesting. Kind of, just have to be relied on the images and the
Right.
video.
Yeah.
Yep.
And maybe
Cool.
there's some descriptions coming from. the
Yeah,
game
of course they
devs.
Yeah,
were
of course, yes,
briefing.
yes,
Did,
yeah.
Another question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Did you get to hear other audio stuff also while you
think
did the
none.
composing?
I don't think there was
Okay.
There was
anything
yeah,
really.
Oh.
yeah.
All right.
It was just basically just the visuals and some of the brief, like
Yeah.
these kind of game modes and these
Good.
kind
Right.
of
Yeah.
like the feel they want to
Okay.
have, like the
But you can go pretty
competition
far
and-
with the visuals. Just
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Like this fine point here, bubblegum visual. It's a funny way to say it. But if you think about the Fall Guys world and the characters, they are
Yeah.
like how I see them. They're these kind of cute, bouncy, rubbery even
Yeah.
Ah.
characters, and you can see that the world is actually quite bouncy and colorful and
Toy-like
kind of pastel.
kind
Yeah,
of.
toyish and
Yeah, and even like from one screenshot, you can kind of figure out what's happening in the game.
yeah.
Yes.
Like you can see it's a race or
Yeah.
you're competing. There's a lot of Fall Guys and yeah.
but obviously this kind of bounciness and there's this sort of happiness to the game. Even still, it's kind of like fun and sort of happy, even if it's a kind of a competition or a race going on there. But this bounciness is something that kind of, at least how I felt, it
Like
it has to,
plastic
yeah,
bounciness.
yes,
kind of-
that has to be reflected in the sound of
Yeah.
the music. So that means
yeah.
basically bouncy synths, punchy drums, fun
Yeah.
grooves, fun percussion, fun
Yeah.
toy samples,
Yeah.
kind of.
So definitely like the happiness, the bounciness, that came from the visuals.
And
Yeah.
still some kind of urgency to it, because it's still, you're
Yeah,
racing.
it's a
You
competition,
can
yeah.
grab
So that also
uh,
affects
other
the
players,
rhythm, and that also
Yes.
affects like how much stuff is going on and like that kind of stuff. But this is the part where we still didn't have the music or anything. This is just like
Right.
us thinking about the
it,
thing.
yeah.
One thing that we kind of researched was we tried to find a lot of videos of 80s and maybe earlier to TV sports teams, like sports shows and news jingles and stuff that played, and kind of took reference from that for the melodies, for the soundscape, and it has this kind of heroic kind of a bit orchestral and sometimes like these synth basses that were 80s like kind of a staple of that soundscape. But we showed some of those demos and we talked a little bit with the Fall Guys team, but that ended up being like a bit too heroic, too serious, and that's why we didn't go with that. So not everything works. That's what
But
we
perhaps
wanted to
perhaps there's
show.
some sort of phantom of the 80s sports themes
For
present
sure.
in the I think, for example, the
bass.
cheesy slap bass.
Yeah.
You can
The
hear.
synths
You
bla-
can
ba-
you
bass,
can imagine the 80s sports news kind of.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like we tried some of this stuff and it didn't work, but it still kind of affected. Like at least it showed what didn't work, so we didn't go there
Yeah.
again. So that's an important part of kind of trying to find the musical identity. And then of course there were reference tracks from the Fall Guys team, and what this means, I think a lot of people have the misconception of reference tracks as something we kind of as composers copy. So like we hear some track and then we make a version of that track for the video game, and that's not at all how it works, at least for us. It's more of framework or a ballpark
Yes.
for where we are going, because when we see the visuals we might not know like what kind of rhythm it needs. It might be just like we as a composers we might be like, okay, we're gonna make ambient music,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
then the team is like, oh no, not at all like this,
Yeah.
and that's the kind of the reference tracks where that Fall Guys team send, where this electronic, contemporary electronic dance music, and that's the kind of, okay, we're gonna go with synths, for
Right.
example.
Obviously,
So
yes.
we are not gonna, record accordion for the first demo because this is the framework that we are working with.
So the reference works as a way of communicating the music
Yes.
stuff.
kind of
Yes,
the
obviously.
ballpark direction
yeah,
for, so we don't make, a punk song for that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it could work
Right.
for Fall
Right.
Guys.
Yeah, it definitely.
I
could.
think
Yeah,
a
like
lot of
happy
it
punk.
work, yeah.
But
Yeah.
we for reference tracks we got electronic music. So
Yep. Cool.
and then from there, these are the kind of the big kind of points that directed our finding of the musical identity. And then it was, of course, a lot of our own personal references, personal experiences and intuition and technical knowledge, and the synths we decided to use, the sounds we decided to use, and then kind of winging it from there and trying to mold it into the thing that Fall Guys music is now.
Winging. That's the theme here.
Winging. We're just winging. Yeah, but hope that's helpful.
So you set that vision then, and then you got
We kind of
yeah.
what we mean by winging it is that these are maybe kind of afterthoughts that this is like what we thought that probably happened in our heads when we were
Right.
working.
When someone asks us, how do
Yeah.
you do this? How did you do this? And
Yeah.
we have to actually stop and think, wait,
What
how
did
did
you
we?
Because a lot of this
do
stuff
it?
just comes as a
Yes.
intuition, kind of
Yes.
gut
Right,
feeling,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
this could work, and then
Yeah.
as an afterthought, we're like, oh, maybe there was this like rhythm thing with the steps and like,
Yeah.
And
So, but it's
easy-
more like reactionary that you just let yourself to get into the creation process, and that creates the end vision with the references and communicating with the team and all the images and that kind of things.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of winging it in the in the
And
the
then
art world.
This was
Yeah.
happening during COVID. So, and
Yeah.
then the developers teams and audio team is probably weren't in Finland with you guys. So this discussion
you were not there.
entirely
Yeah, we weren't
weren't
there.
Yeah,
online.
this was
England.
all. Yeah, we had few, I think, video talks, and mostly we communicated with email.
Right.
Does that differ of the other projects, because you've done things that you're not co-located before as well?
For me, this is pretty normal. Like
Yeah.
I like to do with the actual communication of the tracks, like commenting and stuff with email, because that's what like gets saved, and I know
okay.
what to refer to.
Right.
So
Trails of
even if we talk
documents.
about something on Discord or whatever, then I ask them to send me an email with all the
Yeah.
and there's a lot of like cases where the team might, on the other side, the Fall Guys team is amazing, but there might be a team that kind of don't know their own vision, and they
Yeah.
kind of have different, especially with the smaller teams, there might be different visions of what the music will be, and
Yeah.
then like everybody starts giving their input, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't work with this because there's like
Yeah.
different visions. So that's
Some
why
say
I
this, some
asked
say
like
that.
one person
Yes.
to
Mhm,
email,
mhm.
and that's what we did with Fall Guys also.
Is that also like a little bit like contractual safety, so that
For sure, yeah,
Yeah.
because it's gonna take a long time if like there's
Yeah.
3 people commenting.
sure.
So you
Yeah.
had to like very kind of compiled and condense this communication,
Yes,
streamline it.
absolutely,
Yeah,
yes.
streamline the
Yeah,
communication.
and it worked really well with Fall Guys, and
Okay.
like sometimes we go on, I think Slack or Discord, what we use, we kind of chat there a little bit about ideas or maybe video talk, but then like the final comments kind of we take as an email.
When you work with a client, do you this is already like question and answer. I'm terribly sorry, but it's super, it's super
go ahead.
interesting. So I'm just wondering, with this set of vision at that, do you play other games that Mediatonic had been doing before? Anything like that?
I don't think I've
Okay.
played any.
No, me neither. No.
But I can. I've worked a lot with Devolver, who published Fall Guys in the
Right.
and that's basically where Devolver knew me, and Devolver knew that Mediatonic needed a composer, so they asked me to work on it, and then
Yeah.
that's kind of like how we ended up working there. And then I was like, okay, this game looks so great, and like but I can't make good enough sounding music for this. I was actually gonna say no at first.
Oh, because you were
because I was like this
terrified.
is just, yeah, this is like it's not the kind of soundscape that I really know how to make.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then
And more on the production side.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Like
Like
composing, you
yeah.
can do anything. I mean, this guy. But
yeah, but it
But it
was
was
more
the
about the soundscape,
sound,
like
Right.
the synths, and
production,
like I knew that this game needs really punchy, good, like thought out sound. And then at some point I remembered that Daniel, my
So
good
good.
friend, my
Yes.
good friend Daniel, and I asked him to work with me, and then bang.
yeah, and this works perfectly because I'm a sound tweaker at heart. Well, you can see my profession. I sit day in and day out, and I make music sound better. That's my that's my
Yeah.
job. So
Yeah.
so basically, this is kind of a dream. I don't have to worry about the composition at all.
Yeah.
Yukio makes all the notation and chords and leads
Melodies
and,
and
yes,
stuff.
and
And
I
then
just
you make it sound good.
yeah, I get it, and then
You
I
carve
create the sound. Yeah, I
Yeah.
create the sound. Yes.
Yeah. Mm.
Exactly.
Excellent.
So it was a very kind of fortunate, lucky thing that we found each other, and that project came at the same time, and
Yeah.
like. All right. Next up.
Oh yeah, this is my favorite part. 'cause
Oh
I'm
yeah.
so, I'm so
How
proud
we
of
work
this.
together. This
I'm
is
so proud
Daniel's
of this graphic. Look
design,
at this. I mean,
masterful. Oh,
wow.
wow. So this
We
is the-
can see that you're not graphic artists, but this
I should have been.
looks nice. Looks
This
nice.
is straightforward, very
this is-
intuitive.
Yeah. Okay, so this is just a quick glance at how we work. Is with every track, every season, Fall Guys is released in seasons. So we usually do 4-ish tracks, new tracks for every season, in 2 or 3 every 2 or 3 months around. And so Fall Guys team briefs us usually with a PDF or a slideshow of kind of like what the theme is gonna be, or like what the game is, the new game modes or whatever, and they brief us both. And then it starts with me kind of coming up with the first composition, first kind of usually the in-game, or we remix the theme song every season. So the menu track is basically the same track, but with a new twist. Yeah. And either one of those is where I start with the composition. And then when I have around 30 seconds or a bit more of kind of the basic idea of a track, then I send that to Daniel.
Yes, and then I just kind of well, the point is to make a presentable demo to send back to the Fall Guys team to even approve the initial idea. Is it at all what they would like at all?
Is it in the right direction?
Yeah. And obviously there's a lot of as you can see from those fine arrows in the middle, there's a
lot of back and forth.
There's a lot of back and forth. Obviously, I might do some production work, send it to Yukio. Hey, what do you like about this? And he might suggest things, and the usual.
And then we send it to the team, and hopefully it gets approved, and then we continue making it longer. Usually, at that point, we make a full around 3-minute track, and then I send that to Daniel, and Daniel.
Then it's kind of final mixing and mastering, which prepares us the final track that gets implemented in the game. So it's basically this is in the nutshell, and we'll talk more about this on the next.
So this is the kind of like what we wanted to show with this is that we are not, we both don't make 2 tracks for the new seasons, but like we have our own kind of
areas
that we are good at, and we trust each other on that.
Should we next?
Okay, so I'm gonna talk a little bit about the composing side. So that's usually where the thing starts, and I get the brief from the team, and there's like a season. Okay, this season is gonna be medieval, and there's gonna be castles and knights and horses, and then I usually from that I try to think of a strong thematic idea for the track, and this means it might be a melody that's very, for this season, medieval. This like a medieval melody, or maybe medieval rhythm. It could be rhythm also, like the main kind of idea for this.
Well, what would be
particular track.
medieval melody? Indeed.
That with the
yeah.
trumpet, then it's medieval.
Oh, that instantly,
I can hear that.
Whoa, okay.
But the thing is, I try to come up with one or two very strong ideas for this particular track, and so there I start making it, and hope that that's the most stressful part. I hope that the team likes that, but I don't have to think about that still. And this is where this kind of our own areas with Daniel comes in a very good use, is because this is the part where I don't have to think about the sounds at all. I can think, okay, medieval, maybe it's trumpet, or maybe it's a nylon string guitar or something, but the melody, I can concentrate on that, concentrate on chords. For example, for the season 2, which was medieval, it was like, I tried to think what is people's kind of first thought when they think of medieval music, what instrument, what kind of melodies, and then kind of make that into Fall Guys music. And that was actually one of the very, very hard things to do with that particular season, but I'll go there later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is where I have maybe a melody, I have some chord progression, I use Ableton Live as my go-to digital audio workstation, and then I start putting them. Sometimes I use piano to play things, but usually I just click with my mouse. So I'm not really a musician. I'm a composer. I don't really know how to play instruments. Well, I know a little bit of guitar.
That's a lie.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a good terminology point there.
Yeah,
It's like,
it is.
because in my head it's just like audio designer, musician,
Yeah, it's
composer,
easy
all
to,
of this.
yeah,
Like,
composer
yeah.
is like who makes the notes.
right.
Yeah, you don't have to actually play any instrument.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
Especially
computer
these days.
helps.
It just plays in your head and then someone else plays it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That is a good point, because that's how it happens. It's I usually get my ideas when I walk. I like to walk and take a walk, and then I come up with. Usually, when I walk to the studio, I already like in the morning I start thinking about like the next track that I'm gonna work
Yeah.
on, and then usually when I get to the studio, I already have like most of the track inside my head,
In
and
the
then just
head.
like click on the computer enough times so
I-
it happens.
I remember from like a school, like way back, that there was a story about Sibelius, I guess, like Jean
Yeah.
Sibelius,
Yep.
and he lost his hearing, didn't he? But he did still compose, because that's like the music was still singing in his head.
Yeah, he just
Beethoven.
Beethoven. Oh.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
it's
it could have
Beethoven.
been. No,
Yeah.
was it also? Okay.
Sibelius might have as well, I'm not
Nevertheless,
sure,
you
I'm
have
not
to
sure.
check it.
It's a
Check it.
legend that goes
Yeah,
around.
probably
Yeah,
Every
everybody.
composer.
Many composers
I've
have
been
the
deaf.
problem.
Yeah. So I guess like that might happen because you destroy your ears at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, but I couldn't do that because I need the computer. I need to hear it also.
Right.
I'm not that pro.
I'm gonna check the facts. Let's see. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So usually after I have the strong thematic idea, the melody, rhythm, something, and then I do a lot of hectic. I'll do a lot of. That's just my compositional style. Is add a lot of stuff, like a lot of harmonies, a lot of rhythm stuff, a lot of polyrhythms, a lot of stuff that just comes out. That's kind of the where I try to intuitively know when it's too much. Sometimes it is too much, but then Daniel fixes it. Okay, so this we already talked about a little bit. So at this point, I hopefully have a short demo around 30-ish seconds, and then later, when it's gone through Daniel and to the team, and we get the comments on that, then later I work on the full version of the track, which is usually around 3 minutes. One of the main things with Fall Guys music specifically is, well, I guess it's any music that I work on, but Fall Guys kind of crystallized for me how to keep it, or try to keep it varied. And by this, while I add a lot of hectic stuff, a lot of rhythms, a lot of harmonies and melody lines and rhythms, then I try to keep it varied in a way that there's distinct parts. So maybe the first part is that has a lot of melody, but then it moves into this completely different rhythmical part that doesn't have that much melody, and that already varies the composition a lot. And that I think is one of the main things that really keep it interesting compositionally thinking. And then one of the things that Eurovision modulations. You don't have to think about the Eurovision if you don't know that. That's all right. But this is just that's the term that I like to use. It's essentially a lot of pop songs, and especially in Eurovision Song Contest, it's a kind of a running joke that final chorus comes at least 2 times, and it's modulated half a tone or a semitone or a full tone, and so it becomes a bit higher, and then like it really adds energy, even if it's the same part. It varies it, and it adds a lot of energy.
Always time for one more modulation before the end
and then
of the song.
is it the place where they change the dress or something? Or
Usually,
the wind machine comes in.
Exactly. But that's such a funny thing, because usually it's the exact same part, but it's just like a semitone up, and it really adds a lot of energy to it. And this is what we kind of, or I try to, as a composer, I try to really in Fall Guys like get the most out of. And this means that there might be like 5 modulations in one track, and it might go down, it might go up, it might go like a full tone up and then semitone down, and it worked really well. I love to do that.
Yeah, so basically put us as players into emotional roller coaster with the modulations.
Yeah, exactly. And that also, like, because music, I think, like, people want to be familiar with the music, but also they want the variations. So that keeps it familiar, because it's the same melody, but it's on a different kind of height. So it really kind of, I don't know why, but it really adds energy to that. Yep. And the thing is that we don't do that just at the last part, but we might do that in like, there might be this looping part, so we might do that in the middle of that part.
And that might be my last part, though, because I might be dropping out from the game.
But that's the thing. Like I try to bring that to the maximum, basically, modulations. And then so yeah, a lot of problems and triumphs with seasonal themes. The medieval thing that I talked about. For me, and this is where personal kind of experience and intuition comes in, is that medieval music usually is very melancholic for me. It's usually very this somber, kind of slower paced, like the first thought of the medieval music when somebody says that. And that was really hard to combine with Fall Guys music, because Fall Guys music is very energetic, very happy, very just bubbly, and that's like completely oppositional to my thinking of what medieval music is. And also the instrument used in medieval music, usually in like a nylon string guitar or a lute or something, that's like very hard to make punchy, because it's just in its nature is not punchy.
They didn't have a subwoofer in the
exactly in the chords. So, but yeah, that was.
Or maybe they did. We don't know.
But that was very hard part to do, and that was season 2 already. Like that was the first season, the additional season that we worked on, and it was really hard. But in the end, I think we really nailed it, especially because Daniel helped with the soundscape to really bring it to sound like medieval music, but still be Fall Guys music. And that's the kind of the musical identity, the world that we are building. It's not just medieval music that's played in Fall Guys game. It's actually Fall Guys music in a medieval form, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of needs some creativity, because like we didn't have, for example, an iconic medievalish instrument, the hurdy-gurdy. We didn't have one lying around, so I think how did we build it with some like string machines and synths layered
like
and something like that? Yeah,
I think it was string samples that you kind of harmonized.
Yeah, I remember.
Somehow,
Yeah, something. Yeah,
we just like created that, and if you
That was
take that
crazy
kind
times
of
there.
if you take that kind of apart from everything, it doesn't sound like hurdy-gurdy
Yeah,
much,
yeah, exactly.
but
when
it
you
sounds in the
combine
context
with,
of the
yeah,
music.
yeah.
It sounds.
Yes.
So I guess that's where also the composition and the sound design, the soundscape works together.
Yeah.
But then also, that was a triumph when we got that nailed down. But also there have been very fun, easier seasons, like the jungle season, which is like
Yeah.
when I think of jungle, like music that you could hear in a jungle themed level is like a lot of rhythmical elements and bongos and congas and shakers, percussion, and that's very easy to combine with the already very rhythmical Fall Guys music.
Yeah.
And also because Fall Guys music is a lot like the rhythmic bass for Fall Guys is a lot of breakbeats and drum and bass kind of thing, and one of the sub genres of drum and bass is jungle. So it was kind of easy to go there and do one of those tracks and like.
So you also played with people's understanding of musical genres. I
Yeah,
guess,
exactly.
yeah.
Like if you know
what jungle is.
yeah, then you're like, oh, okay, I get
Jungle.
it. Yeah.
I got.
Yeah.
I get
so
what you did there. Yeah.
yeah. So that's where it really like we could take it to the next level, kind of
Yeah.
not just do jungle style music, but
Yeah.
kind of add
In
some
my head, the
in
first
jokes.
jungle kind of if somebody talks about like jungle in games, it's like Crash Bandicoot because it's like
Yeah.
they're in a jungle,
Yeah.
sort of jungle.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's like if bounciness. I guess some of your music might have this Crash Bandicoot type of feel to it. I don't know if you
Yeah.
agree, but maybe for me with the limited
Yeah.
analysis of
yeah.
some of the things can be like
Yeah, and the funny thing with Fall Guys music, especially when hearing, because a lot of people listen to the music and hearing a lot of different kind of takes on that, and people say that it really sounds familiar, but they
Can't
they don't
pick it.
know what genre it is. There's not, and we've tried to find music like Fall Guys, and it's really hard to like nail down what the genre or like what it is really.
Yeah.
There's not many like it.
Now we
and
have to come up with a witty name for it.
I
But
think there was one.
I'm
bubblegum
super
something.
tempted-
Bubblegum core.
I'm super tempted to say something out from our stream when we played together,
Yeah.
Fall Guys, and it's like there's a couple of us thinking that well, we hear the TV shows of 80s,
Okay,
But
so
we-
That's cool.
That's
but we hear Seinfeld.
Yeah, because of
Because
the
of the
bass
slap
line.
bass.
Yeah, and that's exactly.
Yeah. Ooh.
There's so many
that
good
bass.
bass covers on YouTube. People playing on top of that.
Oh,
They're-
that, yeah.
They
Yeah,
are
yeah.
amazing, like
It's-
Japanese players and
Yeah.
like oh.
It's
so
super
good.
iconic, of course. Like, everybody has heard
Not
it.
only bass covers, there are like
A lot of
heavy
covers.
metal albums, cover albums,
Yeah,
and
orchestral
orchestral
versions and yeah.
That was
Wow.
But yeah, I guess that's for
the composing,
my
yeah.
my kind of area of the.
So yeah, let's go over just some kind of the production steps. What happens after?
So all this goes to Daniel's table.
Yeah, and a lot of this work kind of mix along the way. But yeah, this I actually wanted to say make Yukio's rough demo make sense, but it's more polite to say make it sound for Fall Guy now. So at this point, what this basically means is that I get the first 30-second-ish rough demo session. We use the same software, Ableton Live, and we have everything synced between our computers, so it's just easy. When Jukio says he's done with the session, I'll just open it up and continue from there, save it as a new file, and so on. First, I'll just check it out. What's in there? What's the musical idea? What's the theme of the season? I take everything into account, and like I said earlier, at this point, the number one thing is to make a presentable demo that brings out the Yukio's idea in the best way and that fits in the world of Fall Guys in some way. So I might start. I might take the chords and the melodies, and I'd start either completely designing new sounds, taking into the direction I want, because Jukio. Because he does not have to care too much about the sound in the composition process, he can, of course, if he wants to and he gets the idea.
Yeah,
So
sometimes there's some specific sound
Yes,
idea
exactly,
that I
so-
want you to kind of recreate.
yep, and sometimes even so when I get a session from Jukio, it might be anything in between from total placeholder sounds or actually something pretty well thought out and even close to what actually ended up in the game. So I think in some tracks I might have used perhaps unaltered some lead sound that Jukio made. But then if needed and with my own intuition and having the idea with the themes and how the composition works, because that of course has a lot to do with what kind of sounds go in. So I might start redesigning the sounds and kind of make punchier drums and kind of like piece it together. At this point, I wait, just I was about to say something. I think I lost my. Oh yeah, okay. Here is where the actual composition process and the production process might start to a little bit mix, because I leave Yukio's notes and chords alone, but that sometimes I might start doing some slight chord inversions and small things like that to make it kind of fit.
Sometimes some specific synth sound might work better if inverted.
Yeah, if you invert the chords and so on, and I might start adding maybe little percussion elements and try to kind of like have more fun going on in there and make it interesting.
Yeah, and especially with the rhythms. A lot of times
that's my
with rhythms,
strong point, yeah.
and especially towards the newer seasons, I usually leave a lot of like just room for you to kind of come up with rhythmical ideas for their like hi-hats and agogos and stuff that you add.
Agogo is my favorite. But anyways, the further we go into seasons, the more we kind of already have this palette built up with some certain sounds that we, for
also
example,
like trust that like
of
you
course
can
of
do
course,
that
of
all
course.
and
yes,
yeah.
and for example, let's say seasons 1 till maybe 5, perhaps there's this reoccurring theme with I have a specific set of drum sounds that I've created, for example. So many of the tracks I can choose from 3 different bass drums and a few different snares. This kind of helps still keep the kind of cohesiveness of the whole soundtrack. Of course, it will vary from track to track how I then process them, but it's like, so it's not everything has to be made from scratch, especially when we are moving from season to season.
Yeah, that's also part of the musical identity, like
Exactly,
keeping some familiarity between the seasons.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, basically after I've done the initial sound work for the short demo, and then of course I run it through Jukio. If he's okay, doesn't want to make any changes, we send it for Folkast team for approval. And when the demo is approved, obviously then Jukio will start working on the full version of the track. And usually Jukio then takes the session where I have produced the sounds. He will take that session and continue composing with those sounds.
Yeah,
if possible at all. And after Jukio comes back to me with the full composition of the song, which is usually like 3 minutes long, something like that.
Usually 3 minutes.
Yeah, with all the parts and everything. Then only then I start working with the full track.
Yeah,
and then of course maybe this is a good place to talk about the point where Jukio utilizes the modulations and different parts. That's a good cue for me to utilize different things in the production to keep it interesting for the year, because this is a thing that I've heard a lot from people who listen to music, is that you can how can you listen to the songs a lot and it doesn't get annoying, or how can you, and that this comes, I think, down to 2 factors. First, obviously the compositions are really interesting and they have a lot of you're welcome. Didn't you know? No. But they have a lot of variation, but so is the production. The production is, even if I say so myself, it is the quality is pretty good. I mean,
It
well,
is.
obviously that's my
You're
profession,
you're a pro.
but
What does it mean that the quality is good? Like, can you give us a little
yeah,
bit?
yeah. For it's like even if we go just to we can divide it into kind of technical and sort of creative or artistic parts. Even if we go to the raw technical, it's very well mixed and mastered. It doesn't have offensive frequencies coming at you. Like it's just it sounds good to your ear.
Right.
That's one of the most important thing. If you are gonna make audio that people are going to listen to over and over, you have to pay attention to how well the production is made in this aspect and how well it's mixed and everything.
Yeah.
So maybe in a demo that I sent to Daniel, there's like a hi-hat that's like, and then Daniel makes it sound good.
And a lot of
It's like something that you can
I like
repeat
just-
and then
I just turn it down. Mute the channel. Well, and a lot has to come.
Sometimes it's that.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
that's the production
If it's
side.
needed.
So,
Yeah.
so
It's needed.
that's your profession basically, to know that what's gonna irritate the like average people's
Yeah, one of part of
ears
it's,
too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
that they
kind of
can't
my job
repeat
to
it.
know what's going to sound good
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
to on average
on
and
average.
on average different playback systems.
Yeah, that's
and
Yeah.
every yeah.
definitely the technical
Yes.
side of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of it comes from just making sure that first of all the low end of the song, the bass, kick, everything that is solid.
It's not
All the
muddy.
frequency, the whole spectrum is well and well balanced and represented,
Yeah.
and
and also
It's-
varied in that sense.
yes, that's what I was coming
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
Like the interest point in for example, if you make a modulation or we switch between different thematic parts,
Yeah.
I'd like to utilize contrast. For example, if we might first have kind of like a
Very melodic.
we might have like
full part.
there's like a melodic full part with a nice maybe a grooviness going on, and then we might utilize really kind of tight beat, tight synth sounds, stabs
Yeah,
going on.
punchy.
But when we move to
The
next section, we might actually loosen the synth. Well, let's go back a little bit. Maybe we have on the first section we have punchy synths, punchy bass, punchy drums, but maybe not that much sharpness going on in the high end of the spectrum, say hi-hats, shakers and things like that, or they might be more groovy and loose. And then we go on the next part, then we might lose the tightness on the other instruments like bass and synths. We might make it more groovier and more kind of loose, vibey feel, but then we might add kind of like more driving, striking, high-end, high-frequency content, hi-hats,
Yeah.
maybe bells, and maybe even introduce some other high-frequency energy content that you don't really kind of even notice what it is, but it kind of
Yeah, but it adds the
these are-
variation.
yeah,
it's not just like different melody, different melody.
This is
right?
actually
It's
really
not-
hard
yeah.
to kind of
Explain.
explain.
Yeah,
I'll show some stuff on the
Hopefully we
session
can show in the
later. I'm
session.
sorry if
Yeah.
this is a
Yeah.
bit
That's the-
weird. So
no, but like
Yeah.
like I
It's-
said in the compositional part, there might be like a melodic part and then rhythmic part, and that's how I vary in the compositional.
Yes.
But this is how Daniel varies. So there's tight synths, but no high end, and then
Yeah.
there's
loose
loose
synths,
synths,
but high end.
high end.
Yeah, okay,
And-
that was way
yeah.
better explanation.
No, yeah.
As you can see, I'm a very technical person.
But like, how do there was already a question from our pre-assignments about that. That do you know the psychology of the sound? How is your formal training, or is like by professional experience that you get into this point of understanding?
Okay.
Were you born with this?
Yes. Well, actually, I think in all things in music, education can take you so far. All of the really top-notch stuff, I think, comes from professional experience,
Right.
or just your hobby experience, or
Yeah.
whatever experience. But you have to.
Experience-based.
It comes
Yeah.
because this is still like. But yes,
Like
I have.
intuition is I think like your experience
Yeah.
essentially. So that's I've talked a lot about intuition, and it's really hard to
Yes.
explain like where these ideas come from, but it's just all these like experiences mixing in my head, and then trying to put them on paper.
But well, yes. But to answer your question, I do actually. I have a degree in music technology, but still, I think that is not. Yes, that gives me the technological base for the work, obviously, but it goes so far beyond that. What actually happens in the field? So
it's super interesting that you had this kind of rhythm that little bit there, and then lifted the dynamics the other way around, so that is that something that you've learned from other like game projects or listening to game music, or is it like general music listening?
Yeah, we come back to this, that this is something that why I'm explaining this is I don't think about that at all when I work on the music. This is when someone asks me, how do you make this so interesting? And then I actually sit down and listen to the music. Why is it interesting? And then I realize, oh yeah, of course, because there are so many. I did this, Jukio did this, and then it sums up with interest points during the song.
Yeah.
There's always something new around the corner that keeps your ear interested and refreshed.
Yeah.
Because if you loop the same thing over and over, our brains, we don't like it. Some might argue that yes, we like it, but still, if you want to keep your adrenaline up and you want to keep interest in the game,
focus,
and kind of like keep the excitement up, then we need changes.
And that's definitely the artistic part of producing. Like, it's not even if you are fiddling the knobs and making synth sounds, it's still there's a lot of artistry in that stuff too, because how would you know, like, how do you decide when the hi-hat goes really loud and when do you do this?
And the actual thing how I decide this is that when I listen to the thing I'm working on, usually I get the feeling that it's not right unless thing X happens. It's not right unless I do this, it's right. That's the gist of it.
There's nothing feeling.
Yeah,
that's perfect. I kind of want to stop there and point it out that like game development is oftentimes described as iterative process, but that's basically all the creative processes that you constantly check on your stuff and reflect on it. So do you do that, Daniel, like when you do the producing part, that you listen to it exactly as you said, you listen to it and then you're like, it needs something, and then you correct it, you go back, listen to it, and go back and forth.
That's practically what it is. I mean, that's how it builds from.
We listen to the songs we make a lot. I let it loop, like sometimes I let it when I'm composing and thinking like what is missing or something. I might just like have my lunch break and let it loop in the background, and if I don't get very annoyed, then it's good.
But that's what it is, listening and going with the intuition.
But iterative loop, the same way that the gameplay is kind of honed, then you also hone the musical experience by listening back and forth.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and the nice thing with this music in Fall Guys, and I think in most video game scenarios as well, is because it's kind of non-linear in the way that it loops. Like we don't have a beginning and an end in a sense. Yeah, obviously we kind of do, but
but a lot of times you don't really know what part is playing at what point, so we can't really. Well, there's a lot of ways to do it nowadays, but or always been, but a lot of times there's no time and budget basically to do all these different iterations of music that happens in different times. So we have to kind of think all the different stuff that can happen and then kind of represent that in the
so you can't
like
do an absolute idealistic production of that game music, but you have to think about like how it works when we have these resources that we have.
And it has to work on all the scenarios that might happen. And I think one of the cool things that I'm really kind of proud of in this soundtrack is the way that the songs loop. And that's not too obvious to actually make work well.
Yeah, it's a huge like combination of like the production skill and also the compositional skill to actually.
Yeah, it amazes me that because when we are on the modulation things, how you actually bring it back to where it started. When you've been adventuring around with the.
Yeah, it might be like 5 semitones up, and then like how to make it loop, because then it's just like comes back. So that's been a puzzle too. That's been very fun to solve.
Let's go to our next step, which after all this, basically, well, most of the time my way of working with production is that I tend to, because I already have the idea in my head how the end product should sound like, so I try to kind of mix from the start. I don't usually have that defined producing part of the work and then a mixing session. I mostly try to produce the final sound right off the bat. Sometimes it doesn't go that way, obviously, but most of the time. So basically, the final mixing is usually just tinkering, some fine tuning, and making sure all the balances are well. And usually at this point, I think we should usually just send it for, hey, here's the final mix. If everything is okay, we'll do the mastering soon.
Yeah.
Does it ever come back? Is there anything that...
I don't think it from the final mix stage. I don't think.
No. Yeah.
Perhaps once.
Yeah, or there might be like some tweak that we can do that we don't really need a new approval. It's just like if you can tone this down a little bit, and then we just
and then I just do it from that.
So usually at that point we've been kind of approved mostly.
Yeah. So it's like you're doing the final checks and they are already listed.
Yeah. So the most stressful part is the beginning, the 30-second demo kind of, because that's like we don't know at all if it's gonna work.
Right.
And that's why it's stressing because it's like it might be weeks of work to get to that 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then if it gets approved, we're good. But if it doesn't, then we are
doomed.
You have to do it again in the end.
But the thing
Did that happen? Did that ever happen?
No.
Oh.
But I can't trust myself. I'm always
of
like
course,
stressing about that still.
There's always that chance. That
you have to take that into account. But the thing with the Fall Guys team is that what's really great, they appear, at least what it seems to me, they have enormous trust on us.
Yeah, definitely.
They let us. They don't kind of.
Yeah, the team at
Micromanage.
the Fall Guys team is amazing at that. Like they are really trusting and they are really good with feedback.
Yes, that's amazing.
Ruben Rincon on that side as the audio director, and they are just like they're always on point, not really too specific about like specific stuff. Like
that's not a given.
Because they trust with the overall sound, like and that's been a huge relief working on this.
So there's probably so much experience in his backs already that's how he knows how to give the right kind of
for
feedback.
sure. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that he's been on the other side.
Yeah.
Getting the feedback as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see. Okay, well, after the final mix is approved, obviously the last part is mastering.
Your real job. Mastering.
But well, obviously in this usually it is said in the music industry world that it's generally not a good idea to master your own mixes or productions. But well, I reserve the right to, because I think it wouldn't turn out as good if I did.
You're the best for
I'm
this.
the best for this answer. But
I wouldn't approve anyone else.
And at this point, let me say that the mastering is just kind of, because I've already done through and through the mixes myself, and the mastering is not that big of a process actually. It's more taking the 4 different tracks for the season, comparing them to previous seasons, setting the tonal small differences, setting the loudness right. It's just kind of like this formality to make it sound cohesive as usual.
Because you've done such a good job beforehand with the producer.
Of course I have.
Yeah.
No.
No, that's the thing. That's the reason.
And also, it is at this point that I produce separate masters for the released official soundtrack version that goes out to distribution. Mainly in Bandcamp, Spotify, YouTube, all those, practically every streaming service.
So they are different masters from the in-game.
Yeah.
Actually, they're different in the way that they might have different. They might have a little altered intro or looping point, because the in-game versions usually are made to loop.
Yeah, in a certain way.
So the soundtrack versions have fade outs, and because obviously on Spotify we can't loop it forever.
Yeah.
Maybe we
could
try
that
that.
to like end suddenly. So
it's a different mode of listening, so you have to
definitely.
think.
The sound is usually actually the same. but we just prepare the looping points and the fade outs and check that the intros are somewhat
And come up
and
with
make
names.
sense.
That's
Oh
a big
yeah.
part.
We come up with the witty names.
Ah.
that's
At first we came up with this.
Wait, you don't come up with the title when you
before.
before?
No, they're just
no,
they're
no,
just-
no,
They
no.
are all named like in game 1, in game
yeah.
2.
Ah, okay.
And sometimes we might propose to you that this track might be good for race levels. This track might be good for team levels. But in the end, we actually don't always even know if they're going to like use that way. So that's why they're just
I
in game
think
in
the-
game one.
In the first
Yeah.
season, there was like we composed a track for, I think it was survival levels and then team levels, but they in the game they used them
The other way around.
the other
Yeah.
way around because
the
it worked
names
then,
are-
but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
names are still in the release. They are like the wrong way around for us.
no,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we hadn't played the game
Yeah,
at
yeah,
that
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we didn't
when
know.
it went to the streaming services, it was you didn't know that they switched
Yeah,
it.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. But we left it that way.
Yeah,
It's fun.
Yeah.
And the names
fun
are
thing.
names. We kind of came up with this that every song has to have the word either fall
or
on it or maybe bean was it?
Oh.
and
Because-
something else, I think.
Okay, I'm gonna check that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in the new seasons we had to kind of add a little bit more
Yeah.
variation because it got too hard to come
Yeah,
up
like
with
Is
a
it
name.
just 2 words and then
There's-
it-
yeah.
And then the running joke
medieval
with,
beans? No.
for example,
Jungle
the theme,
beans.
which the theme song is "Everybody Falls,"
Yeah, that's the
That's
theme
the name.
song's name.
and for example, on season 5, which was the jungle theme, wasn't the name "Everybody Falls" and from trees or something like
Yeah,
that.
everybody falls from
Ah.
a tree.
So yeah, it's, or from the medieval theme, Sire falls a lot.
Season 6 has carousel stumble.
Yeah,
There's
this
no-
is where we added
Yeah,
stumble
yeah.
and
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
rumble is in the
But it's waterfall,
later.
rumbling waterfall
Like,
or something like that.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah,
That's
we
it.
had to add a little bit more.
So you ran out of all the falls and all
yeah,
the.
it was
Yeah.
getting kind of repetitive.
Yeah, we are fallen.
But I love that. It's a little bit playing
So it
around.
could be that
Yeah.
this is the most challenging moment.
Probably.
Yeah,
Yeah,
coming
we
up with
used a
the
lot
right
more time on the names than on the.
No.
Yeah, that's why it takes 4 weeks to make this.
By the way, there's someone saying in the chat that Fall Guys was released in fall. It wasn't, though. It was late summer, right?
I don't know. Maybe it
Was
was.
it- was it-
it was
released in
earlier.
fall?
It depends
Oh,
where you
this-
live.
That was
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
yeah.
Oh,
But I
this
remember I was at
pun
the beach when
jokes.
it was released.
Yeah, but that summer was very, very hot. I think.
Oh yeah, okay.
Depending
And
on
we're
how people
confused Finnish
conceptualize. But
people.
it's like that's fantastic. It's
snow?
another fall again. Yeah.
This pun jokes is everywhere.
All right, I'll let you go to the next point.
Yeah.
Are we close to the getting any of the sound from your computer so that
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah,
actually
some
now,
of the
Actually,
Actually,
Okay,
right.
we are
now,
going
let's,
to the session example.
Okay.
wonderful.
Let's go and see.
So we have the track Fallen Roll, which is the first in-game track that we did. The first track we composed was the theme song for the menu of the game, and that's where we tried to get the overall sound kind of somewhere near the ballpark of what Fall Guys will sound like. And then this was the first kind of what happens inside the game. So this is where, for example, the rhythm of the animation and stuff was really came into play. Yeah. So do we play the first version first?
Yeah. Okay. So this what I have open here is an Ableton Live session. This is like I said earlier. Jukio does the first composition. He gives me the session. I work on the session. So basically, this is what first came from Jukio.
Yeah, this is
to
the
me.
the first step for the
Okay.
first in-game track.
Yes. Just a quick rundown. You can see there are basic drums are there, some plucks,
Some synths
basses,
and
and something called minions. maybe if I just hit play and let's see if you can,
Let's
if
see
you
how
guys
it
can
sounds.
hear
Yeah.
this.
We can see if there's demo effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I have this a little bit?
Yeah.
Very sparse. But there's all the, but you can hear all the kind of elements.
I already feel the beat.
Yeah.
He's there.
I feel the
this is
Okay.
trampolines, the bounciness, yes.
yeah. So this is where we started with the in-game
Yeah.
track, and
Okay.
So that was the very first one.
yes,
yeah, this was so yeah.
Wow.
this is what I don't think the team even Fall Guys team didn't
Yeah.
hear this one.
Oh.
So they
Oh,
came
okay.
to
went
me, then
Daniel.
I worked on it, I sent to Jukio, we went back and forth, and we sent them something.
Yeah,
Uh,
and then we discussed with them also, like,
Yes.
okay, maybe it needs a bit more energy, or
So it,
or-
Yeah.
yeah, if
Slightly
we-
slow maybe at this point, yes. No.
yeah, it was kind of
Sort of
like
like a
sparse,
sketch.
not many
Yeah.
things happening
Yes.
really.
okay,
You
so
have to remember that we didn't know what Fall Guys was gonna sound
Of
like. at
course,
this
yeah,
point.
this is the
Yeah.
so okay, we can fast forward with all the back and forth and iterations and demos, but this what I have open here now is the actual final session.
This is
From-
the master of.
Oh yeah, I have on one track here which I'm gonna play for you next. This big bar here. This is the actual master file that went implemented in the game, and here on the background you can see the actual final mix production session. So we can jump from that example from just now to the actual mastered.
Okay, so this is where we went with that.
Yeah, and this is what got implemented in the game.
Yep.
Let's try it. It's still the same theme and everything.
All the same elements in there.
It's so much more, I don't know.
Yep.
It's like
Yeah.
there's more power there.
Yeah.
Right. So like obvious, the basic sketch, so to say, is there from the
Yeah,
very
yes.
first. Like,
It's the
Same
same
rhythm
composition.
is,
Yeah.
Same
is
notes.
there, but there's more richness.
Yeah.
That is actually surprisingly the same in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, that's like I said previously. All the stuff is there when it comes from Jukio.
Yeah.
Then we just make it a product.
Add it, yeah.
Yeah.
Add things, change things, yeah. So was this Jukio in your head while you were walking somewhere?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, probably like that, the first kind of the riff.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's good stories for this.
Yeah, we can go to.
Yeah.
Should we listen to the whole thing
Yeah,
or
let's
just?
listen to
Yeah.
it.
It's only 3 minutes long. So.
I think one thing that I want to listen to is that when we go to the final.
Kind of reminds me, like, if you think about the very first version that Jukio came up as a sketch. So
Yeah.
I draw things, I do
Exactly.
illustrations.
That is a
so
sketch,
like it's
yeah.
a
Yeah.
sketch, and sometimes when I share this rough sketch to someone else, the elements are there. The
Yeah.
core
Yep.
elements are there, but then the color is still not there. The lines
Yeah,
are not
exactly.
lined enough. You know, those type of things. So I can kind of actually able to see this progress between the first
Yeah.
version and this one.
It's like almost I'm doing the line art kind of, and then you kind of colors it or something
Right,
like
right.
that.
So some figures are there, lines are there, characters might be also there, but it's not
Shadows.
Detailing and everything,
Yeah.
yes,
details and
exactly.
everything
Textures.
are not there.
It's actually, I think, a good analogy that there's texture in the, for instance, an image.
Yeah, sure,
You
yeah.
add texture as a engineering to the sound.
Yeah, there's a texture artist separately.
Yeah.
And it is like in video game pipeline, so to say. There's like many different roles are aligned in, and especially texture artists. and
As an
technical-
amateur point of view, when you hear the sketch, you're like, oh, it's the same-ish. But then we can hear all the variations now. also.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like a lot of hours there to
Yeah.
make it
Yep.
then the final.
And now we're coming to the end of the song, after which it will loop back to the beginning.
Yeah.
This is a loop.
It should be on loop. Let's hope.
And also, like, you have to poly all those sounds coming from, like, for example, this wee sounds and all this music. and
There it
those
looped.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now we're in the
Completely
beginning.
seamlessly. Yeah. Yep. Cool.
Okay.
I mean, when I'm in the game, I actually don't know where's the start or the end of the song. It just naturally, seamlessly
Yeah.
loops.
And then if you agree with that, there is someone in the chat saying sounds a lot like Doom.
Doom.
That's
a new-
I've enjoyed. Yeah, this is.
Is it the Doom that I'm thinking about? Is there some kind of other Doom? But it's like, what? I can't.
Yeah.
More
It's the impending
explanations,
doom
perhaps.
Yeah,
that is
it's the
coming
imp-
for.
Is it the Doom or the Doom?
We'll be doomed.
But yeah, we
Ah.
want to talk about the different elements. This is probably where you can show the kind of the production variations that
Oh
you've
yeah,
done.
maybe I can
and
find something here. Just what I talked about earlier about the contrasting things between parts. Maybe I think maybe this might be a good place. I think it went from. This might be one of those those examples with the sort of I talked about with the tighter synths and then going for a groove, but with more high end. I think this, if I now recall correctly, if you listen to actually the bass and the synths on this first part, and then pay attention to, for example, the drum set with the hi-hat, which is open hi-hat and pretty loose actually. And when we go to the next section that is labeled bass solo here, I think, yes, you can actually hear we switch the synths to a more loose groove with fun kind of vocalized sound, but then we add these high frequency elements, and I will solo them out after we listened, so you can hear the little things, but they make all the difference, and you'll notice. Let me just play. Hopefully this works. Okay, tight groove. There we go. Okay, maybe I should have played a bit longer. But anyways, here we go. Let me kind of, perhaps the good thing. Agogo. Yeah, the good. It's the agogo here. It's agogo and this. Maybe if I take something out, you might kind of, for example, if we once more compare to this part, for example, the drums.
the part changes.
This is pretty mellow. You can hear the hi-hats aren't that striking. They're pretty kind of open, loose hi-hats. And when we go to the next part, there comes the agogo. Which
Harsh.
yeah. And this contrast with the actual loose groove of the bass.
Very soft, very loose.
This is kind of a very driving, very precise, very striking agogo. And then we combine the agogo with this is funny. I don't know if you guys can see what reads on the screen. This is Akkala Ancient Tech Lab. It's because I was playing Breath of the Wild and I was making this, and while I made this sound, it reminded me of something, and then I remembered the music that plays in Akkala Ancient Tech Lab, and it sounded like that. Just because I didn't know a better name for the sound.
It's a weird sound.
Yeah. Let me play it to you. Basically this. So
that's a little detail that really.
that's a little
adds
detail.
to
So
the
basically,
part.
this is the with agogo and everything. But if I take these out, for example, if I play this without the agogo,
kind of
and without the tech lab, something is definitely missing. If we go from here, from the
it
last,
doesn't feel like
yeah. If we go from the last section to this,
need
it
something here.
still works.
It's like it's a new part.
It works,
but
it's not interesting.
I need something here.
Yeah. I need something to kind of tell me that we are still interesting and relevant. Let me put them back on. Kind of, if I take that out, it's still kind of.
Yeah. But those are
I hope the quality is for the stream is that you can actually hear this.
But those are
still-
such a they sound like a tiny thing, but they make all the difference, like you said.
Yes.
And it's
They're
this
they're
is-
well
this
well
is
thought
why
out,
you're-
and even this is what I actually or coming up like this, I actually just take the melody line that Jukio has written. Here are the notes. I just take that and I make a groove with another synth sound. You can hear this is almost like some robotic things talking.
I would never have come up with this.
Oh.
But it needed something like it needed some new element introduced at this part because we've been going for quite some time from the beginning now, and in the beginning has been repeating itself with few new elements. So
It needed contrast.
yeah, and we needed to kind of change it, not just add a new element, but kind of flip the whole thing to make it.
And you got this by listening it and then feeling like, okay, I need something
I need
there.
something. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This needs
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
It's not
So-
right
Yeah.
until I put this here. Maybe
Yeah.
something like this. Now it's right.
Yeah.
Also
That's
trial and
interesting.
error, obviously, but like it comes from the need to have it right.
Yeah.
Groove.
He needs to groove.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To need for your own need to kind of feel something in that spot
Yes.
specifically.
And it all comes. Yeah. It all comes. Usually, what might happen when we talk about producing and the technical things, we get lost in the actual technical things, and we forget that this is all about how things feel to you
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how they feel to listener.
Yeah.
And many that's something that I found that some many maybe more beginner producers tend to kind of forget when they get lost in all these cool plugins and synths, and it's like just
they're
make it
just
simple,
tools.
make it
They're
simple,
tools.
Yeah.
have everything have a place, think it out.
Mm.
Everything is here for a reason,
Yeah.
and it's very well thought out. Maybe did I have something before I
Can I show the
this?
there's a layer
track.
that says
There's a track that is named Jukio in Undies.
so this was this was made when the coronavirus really got bad in Helsinki,
Right.
and we were not only working remotely from
But also
Fall
in your
Guys
undies.
Fall Guys team, but also from each other. So I was working at home in our 2-room apartment, and my workspace was in our bedroom, and I didn't even put pants on, and I recorded this, which is very integral part to this song.
And this is actually this
is
got
the
a lot
recording.
of hype and questions. And what are you saying? What are you
What are
saying?
you saying? And it's so good. When is it coming back?
Oh.
This is-
Should I play the
Yes.
part with?
play the part with all on.
Yes, I start. A little
Otherwise,
bit
you
before
can hear the undies.
We need to cover it.
Here we go.
Yippee yappa doopa.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right. Everybody has.
I love it.
Solo. So I recorded.
Woo!
That's in our bedroom.
And then
Recorded in
should I
my
play them the parts?
So is that how you
solo?
feel
I don't
when
think
you're?
that's interesting, but there's also a reason for this. Not just that I wanted to brag about working on Fall Guys in undies, but
But
I talk
also
about
that.
I talk about the hectic and the kind of my style of composition is add a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
and then I introduce a lot of stuff throughout the track. Usually it comes out kind of intuitively, like this part needs bass solo, this part needs, for example, this part needed some kind of vocalization, kind of the Fall Guys having fun and competing in undies, and then I usually like at the end there's this big chorus part that really gets groovy and big, and then which is this part. So there's a new melody line and like new chord line, but there's all these elements from before, and then like I like to make it bigger and bigger and bring more of things, and this is why I introduced the undies thing is for this part basically, which happens now. Now it really kind of all these different things that kind of are just new parts in the song kind of come together, and they become this bigger than the whole kind of thing. And this is like what really crystallized with the Fall Guys. It's all like almost every track is like this, like just introducing a lot of cool things and then making them all into this huge chorus at the end.
It's like almost like feeling that now you're letting yourself go completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because a lot of times for normal probably for an average Fall Guys player, they never hear this in game.
Oh,
Because
wow.
they don't survive that long.
Indeed.
Because it's at like 2-minute mark. But yeah, there's still something for
Yeah.
for you to listen in the soundtrack version.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing is with the sound design part of doing the production. This is one of my favorite examples of it because
And again, I want to underline that sound design not as sound effects,
Oh,
but
yes,
sound
yes.
design for the music.
yeah,
Because
sound design in the music
we
production.
just
yes.
compose the music. There's an
Sound of
amazing,
music.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
an
sorry,
amazing
yes,
audio
exactly.
team working at
Yeah.
Mediatonic for Fall Guys.
Okay,
so-
so for example, is the original lead idea, which we can hear, or the lead melody, which is this kind of synth thing. This is one of those when we think about how do we make electronic music, but how do we kind of make it not so serious, more fun and quirky, and be Fall Guys. At first, when there was this idea for this lead, and so we came up with something.
Yeah, probably the team said that we needed more energy in the track.
Yeah, because
so we
if you
added
remember
this.
in the original, well, maybe this is just, but if you,
There's not that.
yeah, let's say that our original demo was something more like this, bum, 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 and not. So perhaps we at some point we let's make a more aggressive kind of
More energetic.
techie synth lead that's more
More energy,
more
energy.
legato and everything. So perhaps at some point I would have come up with something like this, or Jukio, I don't remember which one, but this is that's a cool sound. That's an edgy sound. That's a really sharp sound. That's really
Adds
really nice.
energy a
That's
lot.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot of energy. But this is too techy. This is too techno. Too
Does this sound
house.
Fall
Too
Guys?
yeah. It's cool electronic music, but it's not yet Fall Guys. So, but the sound is there. It adds all the energy. I'm figuring out how do I bring this back to Fall Guys? Should I start changing the sound? The sound is good itself. No, I'll add something on top of the sound. When I again thought about the funny rubbery beans, and I thought that maybe a recurring theme during this soundtrack is some kind of vocalization, be it synths or just Jukio in undies or whatever. Is that I actually layered this with the same notes up pitched throat singing, which is sounds like this.
Now this sounds Fall
This is
Guys.
funny. I mean,
this
no,
is
not
really
funny, nothing funny or
Yeah,
in
but
throat
it's-
singing itself. But when you use it in this context, like
It's like you can
You pitch it
imagine
up.
the Fall Guys
Yes.
kind of mumbling this under their breath while they're running.
I want to win.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that I layer this, first I have the raw synth. And now there's some sort of slight organic factor to it. You might not like when you listen to it. You might not really realize or notice what it is per se, but you kind of it transforms the sound from static synth into something fun and interesting, at
more
least to
organic.
me.
And
And
this
that's a small
definitely-
thing,
Yeah,
but it
Mhm.
makes
And
all the difference.
Yep.
and it definitely works for the Fall Guys, like this kind of
Yeah.
combination.
Yeah, and and especially it's important in this part because we already had this punchy bass line. This is a cool sound, but it's not anything that special or quirky. So that's why we needed some kind of addition to. This kind of makes it, and then we add some more fun percussive stuff to it, and
There's
suddenly we have.
So interesting. There's so many different
There's so
sounds
many
behind
layers,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, if you.
This is why people don't get tired of it. Probably.
Yeah. There's always something to discover in the track while you play.
Exactly. Yes.
it. Yeah.
Yes. And you probably don't notice everything during the first listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
we're
right.
different as listeners because
Yes,
some are more
exactly.
trained in their ear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is where kind of the artistic, but also mixing in the technical side comes in, because you can't have all of these things in the front. You can't have like
Yes.
all this.
Yeah, I have
and
to
then
make the
aggregates on
arrangement
the- yeah,
on
so
the
it-
sound stage.
Yeah.
What is front, what is back, what
Yeah.
is in the ambience,
Yeah.
all the reverbs, delays, everything.
Yeah.
And of
and
course,
like change in between levels. Like now this comes in the front, and
and this is more Yukio in. But you can hear it in
What
there.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, now that you read it out.
And that makes all the difference. I mean,
Some
that
details,
organic
yeah.
kind of.
yeah. Even
If
if
I
it's
take it
like
out,
synth
yes.
electronic music, it's still like
Yeah.
organic sounding.
And if I take it
bouncy.
out,
It doesn't feel the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
it doesn't feel the same. That makes all the difference.
Approximately how long did it take for you two, or either one of you to kind of get all these additions in there? What is the timeline here?
I wonder how, like, this is the first track,
Yeah.
so they probably took a little bit longer
Yeah.
because we were going back and forth with the team.
Yeah.
And of course, that time shortens when they like know that we know how to make Fall
Yeah.
Guys music, and like
Yeah, we were finding stuff at this.
You're finding the
yeah,
language.
this was all
Yeah.
experimental, and then yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know how, but
I can't say. Yeah.
we did like around 6-ish tracks plus some jingles. Like when you win the game or lose the game, and
Yeah.
and that was probably like 3-ish months at least
I
for
think,
the
yeah.
for the iteration and finding the sound. And
Yeah.
Yeah. And even the fun thing was when we started the whole thing. We start the whole process with we went to my studio and we set up a microphone, and you brought a bunch of toys.
yeah,
And we have at Finvox, because we have a film sound department, we have a huge storage full of Foley
Items.
all
items.
kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
just-
anything you can imagine. 'Cause we do a lot of video game and movie.
Mm.
But it's we brought stuff from there, and Yukio brought some toys, and we would listen. We would record.
A lot of like
A
wooden
lot of-
toys, rubber
Yeah.
Yeah.
toys, and like balloons. And
I think
Yeah.
is there in
And that goes
This
with the
track,
experimental phase of or experimenting phase of discovering the language,
yeah, definitely.
and not
like,
necessarily like when you do the season changes. No. Or did
Oh,
you
what
do that also with the next season and the next season and
Yeah, not
Each
with.
and
Well,
every
for example, with medieval stuff, you try to find the right kind of Fall Guysy medieval instruments that
Right,
could
okay.
like,
Yeah.
and of course
Yeah.
everything like with the, for example, jungle season, we experimented with what kind of congas
Okay,
or whatever.
okay,
could
just
work.
good to know.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. It's always kind of experimenting,
Mm-mm-mm.
but yeah.
And from those toy
Experimenting,
recording sessions, many of them actually ended up in use. And one of them is the key element in the first season theme, which has a short intro with a small pause, and after which there's a sample of Yukio actually blowing up a balloon,
Yeah.
and then
That's
hits
how
the-
how the
yeah.
theme song starts.
and that's a great thing you realize, because I always want to say when we talk about Fall Guys characters that I have the term robbery.
But
So-
that is
Rubbery.
rubber.
Balloons.
Balloons,
Yeah.
yeah.
They are balloons. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, they're essentially
you know the
balloon.
sound what happens when you handle a
Yes.
balloon, and,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
this
that's
is
kind of
how
the
Fall
sound
Guys
and
like
also-
they look to me.
Mhm,
So-
mhm.
So it was
I'm glad I had the balloons.
yeah. It's like it's that's one genius realization to actually inflate
Yeah.
the balloon.
Yeah.
Mm.
That has nothing to do with the game actually
But it's the
straightly, but
but
it's,
that
it's
becomes
kind of,
the kind of
sort of,
identity
yeah.
of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
thing. And without that experimentation, like even if we didn't use any of the toys, it would probably like just hearing the balloons, for example, or wooden
Yeah.
toys. It would inform us kind of later how
Yeah.
to make synth sounds that kind
Mm-mm-mm.
of comes from that experience of playing with toys.
Yeah. So you kind of put that experience in you so that you could use it later when you listen back and forth.
And in the end, we also use a lot of the actual toy sounds, like
Right. Yeah.
wooden blocks, like kind of falling down and stuff.
Yeah. I don't want to. I need to remind you. There's 10 more minutes
Oh,
for our
okay.
session, so
But I
maybe
think we're-
there's like
I
more
think
stuff
it's-
that you.
No,
wanna
I think it's
share.
time for questions.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's
let's go
do
ahead.
questions. We've been doing a lot of questions so far.
Yeah,
that's
that's
been great.
But we
That's
can
been great.
pull more questions. So absolutely fantastic, super nice details. So many things that I learned today, especially of the whole kind of iterative process of going back and forth and listening. And I guess like very much like in other parts of the game as well, the tiny details build the actual experience.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes for outsiders of games really hard to understand. Well, I guess outsiders of the music industry too, that understand that
Yeah.
that there are these like hours and hours put into 1 second of the song, and you kind of have to appreciate that. So I want to point out something that earlier this week was not this week but last week was pointed out. I guess like audio lead from Rovio, that oftentimes people say that you don't listen, for instance, in mobile games, you don't listen to music, you don't listen to audios, you put it like on mute.
Yeah.
But apparently it is 45% of the players still keep the audio on. So how do you find this? Like, is it sometimes with, not necessarily with Fall Guys team with Mediatonic, but it's like with some clients that you kind of have to explain that these tiny details need to go in order for the game to be enjoyable for the players? Like, is there any kind of back and forth discussion like this?
At least I've been very, very lucky with the kind of clients that I've had, that they kind of have oftentimes come to me and they already know my work and they already know like what I do. So there hasn't been a lot of that kind of problems.
Yeah.
But I can understand that there's a lot of like back and forth between some teams and composers and sound designers too, that they have to kind of go through that convincing of we need this. Then of course there's a lot of things you can do musically in games, especially with layering and like a multi-level kind of different situational music, and that's of course where there's probably more discussion, but not with the. At least I've been very, very lucky with that I hadn't the need to kind of convince anyone that you need this.
So I was like, there's one question, like maybe this is something to also illustrate for me, that is in which way we've been talking about, for instance, looping and these layers and dynamics, but like, do you have any other additional things that how game music differs from like other music, regular music? Like, you do have the difference also in the soundtrack that we put on, but
well, I can tell that we a little bit went over this with the how did you say non
Yeah, it's non-linear.
non-linear music. I didn't heard
doesn't
that
really
today.
yeah.
But no, but the thing with the games is Fall Guys is kind of a simple example, because you always know that, okay, race starts and then the music starts and then it goes somewhere. So it's kind of easier to build up for that. But if you think about, RPG games or adventure games where you don't really know when the player decides to go into a village, for example. So when you go into the village, you can't really, well, you can, but it's hard to convince the player of the mood of the village if you start slowly building it up. But like a lot of times you need to kind of instantly, okay, now you're in village, and that needs to be taken into account. And as a contrasting example in films, because it's linear, you know where it's going, not as a viewer but as a composer, so you can build it up before the scene of going into village, and then you can have that, but that can't be really done
like
normally in games. Normally in games you could do layered systems for that when you get closer to village it goes hard, but usually like we don't have the time and budget to do that, so we need to. For example, in Chrono Trigger or whatever JRPG, when you go to village, you need to know right away. Okay, this is the kind of a party village that that there's a lot of happy people, and you can't really build up to that. So that's the kind of the other main thing I think with the game music. Not just the looping, which is kind of technical that it needs to work, but also you need to kind of you can't really build up into a feeling. You have to have that emotion and feeling right away in the and that's the same with the Fall Guys music. Like you have when the race starts, there's the countdown, and then and you need to be in that racing moment right away.
Right.
Because a lot of like biggest kind of comments or tweaks that we had to do with the back and forth with Fall Guys team was that I wanted to make kind of an intro that it kind of builds up into this racing thing, or and that doesn't work in the game because we need to have that kind of hasty moment right away. So then a lot of times what can work is if the intro part, kind of the calm part works well, we move that to the later part of the track and try to be economical like that.
So there's so many details and kind of understanding of being a game music composer.
Yes.
You also
it's
you
very
do
different
your
from
non-game career in music as well.
Yes. Yeah,
So
I do solo music. That's where I can build up very slowly, and I can do soft, and I love that.
Yeah. Solip, do you have any questions from the audience that you've been particularly interested in highlighting?
So like, remember we talked about sound design lecture last year actually, and then the message there was mainly about having the sound design stepping in early as possible. So that was the message that the rock
in the
development cycle. Does that also applies to music composition, you think? Like there was also actually questions coming on our Twitch, like how far in advance you guys usually get to know about the next season in Fall Guys? Is like, is it better if you get notified earlier in advance?
Sure. Always.
Always.
Okay. More time.
Earlier the better.
as early as you can, please. Yes. But yeah, of course with this kind of seasonal game, it might be kind of like, okay, like now we have to start working on this, and development team might not have the finalized season yet, so they have to go, because it's like a 2-3 month kind of cycle that with Fall Guys it has been at least. But then, as an example of early, like coming in early, usually I guess with game projects that I've done is that I've come in kind of late. Like Fall Guys was already a working game at that point, for example. But then a great kind of contrasting example is Nuclear Throne, which was a huge game. I was there from the Game Jam edition, Wasteland Kings, which was like, we did that in one weekend. We were half sick then, and we did that like maybe in 2 days, and that kind of set up the idea for the game. And then a few months later, we started working on a commercial version of that. That became Nuclear Throne, and that took 2-ish years to develop. But around, like, I was there from the very beginning because of the Game Jam. But then at some point, like halfway through the game, we were making this guns blazing action game, pixel graphics and stuff. And I already decided in the early days that I didn't want any kind of music that would be used in a pixely game like chiptune or synth music, but I wanted to do this Western acoustic and harmonicas playing. But then at some point I just like this ending song for the game, which is an action game. It didn't really have an ending or anything, but I just came up with this ending song idea, which was an actual like lyrical song with singing, and I recorded a demo of that, very bad like a iPhone demo or something, and then the team really liked that, and the kind of the whole direction of the game turned into this more dark lore induced this kind of story game. Like even the game was action game still, but there were a lot more of this kind of lore, this story behind it. The characters, they became more sad in our mind, and it really shows in the game, in the final game. And this couldn't have happened if I wasn't there from the beginning.
Right.
So this kind of thing can happen. I understand that budget-wise, it's not always like possible or production cycle-wise.
Yeah, because there will be changes if you get inspired by the song that the musicians and the composers provide, and then you might want to change something.
Yeah, and I think it's the same with like visual art too.
Yeah.
Like some gameplay ideas might not work without the kind of visual effects on that or audio effects, and I think it's this iterative and mixing process of it's not really separate areas.
Yeah.
But it's this whole organism that evolves.
Yeah, together. So little time, so many questions, so many things that I would still like to know. I'm sure that the audience as well. But I'm going to ask this question for the ones that might be aspiring composers or engineers. What was it? Sound engineer? Mastering engineer. So like if you want to work with music in games, and you haven't done it before, maybe you have your hobby with music. Like, where do you start? Like, what would be your tips?
This is the tip of the century. He always says this. I know what it is.
One thing, do game jams.
Yes.
Because that's where you get the experience of actually implementing the music. So it's not just, linear music. It becomes non-linear when it gets into game. And also it might happen that Wasteland Kings become a commercially successful nuclear throne because that's like and game jams are easy to fail in because they're usually just a weekend or maybe a weekend, and if you have time and you can do that, please do game jams. And also if you have any interest at all, make your own games also, like because that's like before you get actual projects, it's really hard to build up a portfolio of game stuff if you don't have any game projects. And if you don't have any game jams around or something, then make your own games. And literally make a text adventure with music. I made a game called Audience with the Frog Lord, which was this dumb text adventure and it got like a lot of attention because the audio was so good. Well, it's not that good, well, really, but people got inspired and they started making, like other people started making text adventures with audio and
didn't you actually make once a whole soundtrack for an imaginary game?
Yes,
Scuba.
It was this, I was actually working on that game myself for a bit, but then that never went anywhere. But I released the soundtrack. It's really good.
So it's like people to think about, where's this game? Where's this actually?
There's design fiction, I guess. Like you could just imagine that you're working on a game like this and you make the music
and
or audio.
one way to kind of that imagination can be used in by recomposing soundtracks. So essentially take a game video you like from YouTube and make a new track for that and put that on your portfolio.
Like modding almost.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's like so lovely and wonderful. There's Solip's illustration also. Gonna share this on our Discord channel.
It looks like
what is Yukio's idea fountain?
Walk to work.
Is it the coffee mug or?
Yeah, coffee. I've tried.
Yeah.
I don't know if you actually walk
much coffee.
From the short demo to full track. We're gonna share this on our Discord so that everybody can still have a better glance on this, and we also share it to you guys. You will remember the process that you've explained today.
No, if there's new interviews, we can just send this.
That's it.
That's where it is.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess like that's our time. We're a little bit over time already, but it's super wonderful. And thanks for sharing your insight. I am sure that there's a lot of the people in the audience that got inspired by your process. They already probably inspired by your work previously. So we're gonna just wait for them to become the next Jukio and Daniel, I guess.
Sure.
Please do.
Make awesome music, guys.
Make awesome music. Make the world better with your game music in the future, or play games that you enjoy the music of. So if you want to join a game jam that's gonna come up quite soon in the Games Now as well, we have an opportunity for you guys to do your music in the tips that in the kind of spirit of the tips that Jukio shared. So please tune back for the next lecture and for the next things in the season and join our Discord to see more content. We might have a play together of Fall Guys now in reflection of what we learned.
Actually, we played Fall Guys last week together in our Discord server, just to also listen into music together in the game. Yay. And why not we do that again? And also for the next upcoming lecture, we could have play together sessions on and on, so that we can play the game before or even after the lecture to get more engaged with the game we talk about.
It's the beauty of understanding the game itself when we get the lectures. So please tune back and join the community, so that there's so many things to learn. But yeah, thank you, Jukio and Daniel.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for everyone tuning in.
So bye. Take care.
Take care. Listen in the music.